What is your favorite plugin that you are using at the moment? Now, this one's going to surprise a few people. And there's a reason it's going to surprise a few people, is because it is Ozone 11 Advanced. And the reason it's going to surprise you is because, well, I'm surrounded by analog equipment, right? And you're all probably thinking, whoa, Ozone? That's like a one-stop, all-in-one mastering tool that basically could replace this. No, it can't. But what it is it is everything this isn't. So here's the thing, and this is how I like to use it, is, look, it's not that much different from Ozone 10, which was all right. There's nothing wrong with Ozone, but you know, there's a very, very good advancement in Ozone that brings tools to a place that this can't get. And the reason this is that I can have all of these lovely analog pieces of equipment around me, but there's one thing that it can't do, and that's what Ozone can do. So here's the thing. The big thing that Ozone 11 can do is use AI to split each of the, let's say, parts of a track into individual pieces that can then be processed differently. For instance, we can take the drums out of the track and just process drums. Same with vocals and same with bass. Now, what this is beneficial for is when we receive a track that is a stereo mix, it's just a stereo mix. Now, usually, when it comes to a stereo mix and you haven't got stems and you want, you know, the vocal, let's say the vocal, highly sibilant, needs some processing just on the vocal. It'd be great if we had drums, bass, rest of the instruments, and then vocals on a separate stem, but that's not always the case. But now, with Ozone 11, what we can do is select vocal, and then we can process just the vocal using AI. And trust me, it is unbelievably good. Now, look, Ozone 11 isn't replacing this anytime soon. And I'll do a video later this week showing kind of what Ozone can achieve and what kind of analog can achieve. And it'll be an interesting one. But the way to use it, and the way I found using it best, is utilize my analog chain as I normally would. Get that analog glow, get that EQ perfect, get that compression perfect, get the limiting perfect, get everything perfect. So what's coming back into the box is perfect. It's lovely. Then once back in the box, now you can process using Ozone before, you can process after. It's up to you. I like to, once I go back in the box, then use my use Ozone to do additional processing. And there's things that it has which are very good. For instance, now all these things, the big thing here is you cannot do this in the analog domain. So this is where hybrid mastering comes into play, and it's very, 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 very beneficial. It's because there's things you can do out the box in analog equipment you can't do in the box with digital plugins. And there's things that can be done using digital plugins that can't be done out the box. Now, like I say, this thing with you split vocal, bass, and drums, and then you can process those individually, brilliant. It's incredible how good it is. Now, so let's say, for instance, drums. This is a great way to use it. Select drums. Now what you're doing is the AI is basically selecting just the drums from it's isolating the drums from the track and applying the processing to just the drums. Now, why this is good is, let's say we want to get do some EQ on the drums. We've got a kick drum that's just weak, lifeless under the bass, and we can't get it out of, you know, it's buried in the bass, and it needs to be brought out. Now, in the analog world, it's not easy to do. It's not easy to get that kick isolated to bring it out. Mid-side EQ, but then you're getting some of that bass and scooping some of that bass out as well on the actual bass track. So it's going to affect multiple parts in the analog world. With Ozone 11, what we can do is select drums, and then what we can do is use you can use low end focus, and it gets the kind of low end kind of I guess fullness out of the kick drum. But if you select drums, then you're just getting the kick drum, rather than if you've got the whole track, you're getting the kick drum, the bass, all the low end information. So select drums, you get just the kick drum. Now that's really good. Then what you can do is use impact, get the transients in a certain frequency, so you can actually get the kick drum and turn the transients up and get the punch out of the kick drum without affecting the bass, without affecting anything else that's in the low end. Same with the kind of sweet spot in the snare, you can do that. DS the vocals, or use dynamic EQ on the DS the cymbals, or use dynamic EQ to DS the cymbals. It's really, really, really good. I've put a link in the description if anybody wants to go and get it. I mean, look, the link is to the Plugin Alliance shop. I get a little bit of kickback. If you want to go and click that, go buy it there. It's always beneficial to me. But yeah, there's multiple ways of using it. The clarity module that's in the clarity module that is in Ozone as well, that's incredible. That can be achieved using like a similar effect, using things like the Cush Clariphonic, you know, certain analog tools, the 1951 EQ, things like that can get this kind of sweet sizzle. But what's great, select vocal and then turn the clarity up on the vocal. You actually bring the clarity out just on the vocal, and you leave the drums untouched. You leave the rest of the track untouched. So it's really good for things like that. And it's I'm going to do a really in-depth video next week with on Ozone, or rather it would be this week by the time this video goes out. So I'm going to do a video of an in-depth kind of how I use Ozone utilizing this analog chain. And what I want to show is the added benefit to using Ozone with an analog chain. And like I said, it's not like Ozone's going to just replace all of this, because there is still, with the analog world, you are still getting this sound that's like, wow, this warm, wired sound. I hate using the word warm, but you do get this kind of very, very kind of a really pleasing sound. Then you add the added benefit of using something like Ozone 11, and it's look, put it this way, I've been doing, since getting Ozone 11, I've been doing a lot of masters, and yeah, they come out sounding great without Ozone. It sounds brilliant, but then I get to the end of it and I apply Ozone, and I apply all these different kind of tweaks to it. And what it brings additionally to the master is something really special. Now, obviously, with the analog equipment, what we're doing is we're giving it the correct information going in. So then you're just using various different, like I'm not using the maximizer, I'm not using the EQs as an overall EQ, not using compression, not using tape and all that sort of stuff. There's very select plugins that are inside Ozone. It's not, for me, it's not a one-stop. It's not like go buy Ozone and you'll never need a mastering chain like this ever again. That's not the case. It's it's still just an okay EQ compressor. It's all okay stuff, but the actual special features in it are like the low end focus. It's all these things that aren't in other plugins and aren't in analog hardware. And that's where the real benefits come from Ozone. So yeah, if you want to go and pick up a copy, please use the link in the description, because yeah, you know, it earns me a little bit of money. So yeah, it's a nice little affiliate thing. But yeah, I'm really, and I look, I didn't think I'd be that impressed with it, and I probably wouldn't be that impressed with it if it didn't have this AI feature of being able to isolate vocal, drums, and bass and keep those all separate. It's that aspect of it that is very, very impressive. Being able to apply just processing to each individual part of a stereo mix, of a full mix, being able to isolate those, it's very, very, very beneficial. Like one thing I found it great for the other day was I had a really nasally, horrible vocal, and if you were working just analog, you'd have to use a lot of mid-side EQ to kind of try and get that out the vocal. But then what you're going to do is you're going to lose some of the kind of the higher mids in the overall track, and that's not ideal. Whereas with Ozone, select vocal. Now you're just processing the vocal, and you can actually apply the EQ that you need to, scoop out that nasally section. On just the vocal, and I find that absolutely incredible. So right now, my favorite plugin, and I honestly, I think it'll be, well, look, here's the thing, is it's not gonna ever come out of the mastering chain that I use. It just isn't, because there's nothing that replaces it in the analog world, and there's nothing that really replaces it in the digital world. It is very unique. And if you are mastering music, and want to get the edge over, even if you're working in the analog world and you think you've got the best analog chain in the world and you don't need to go back in the box and do any digital processing, you'll be losing out, because I can quite honestly say I can get my tracks, my masters sounding punchier, louder, more dynamic, more clarity, better controlled, because I'm able to just control a vocal or just control a drum. It's special. It honestly is. It's a very, very special plugin. And yeah, fair play to Ozone, because honestly, when like Ozone 3 came out, I wouldn't touch it with a barge pole. I honestly wouldn't. I remember when it came out, and people were raving about it as this kind of one-stop. Yeah, Ozone's now the mastering. It's just got. Well, no, it's basically just getting various different plugins. They've made their own versions of it and putting it all into one. But now it's something special. It really is. And I never thought I'd say that. And I'll be the first to admit I was wrong about Ozone. And now they've really made something special. And look, I'm pleased about this. I always want the digital world to kind of compete with the analog world. I want it to happen because I want to use digital plugins. And this is one that is giving me something that I otherwise don't have out the box. And I can honestly say I very much doubt I would ever have out the box. This is something special. Yeah, the way it can isolate those three parts is really, really unique. Yeah, fair play to iZotope. You've actually brought out something that is quite spectacular. Yeah, so look, guys, if you want to pick up a copy, or click the link in the description, and yeah, go grab a copy, because honestly, it's my favorite plugin at the moment, and quite rightfully so.